Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast. It is the 23rd of January. It's icy in Chicago, so we are remote today, so we don't have to slide all over the roads. And it is, of course, day 2 of Cody Bellinger week for those that celebrate, which I know all of you do.
What was your favorite part of day 1?
Friends we made along the way. Is that the correct answer?
It can be an answer. It qualifies, yeah.
The closer we got to the 1:24:24.
Yeah.
At 1:24 in the afternoon, maybe?
We're one day closer to the day that we're predicting, yeah.
That's right. We're getting close. I believe that would actually be tomorrow, so we'll see. We got lots to talk about today. We've got a former Cubs signing within the division with a rival. We've got Cody Bellinger week day 2 to talk about. We have another one of our sit-down interviews. If you haven't guessed yet, yes, it is Nick Madrigal. Ryan and I had a chance to talk to him at Cubs Convention, and we'll have some stuff that relates to Madrigal and the franchise and roster spots and all that stuff as well along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page, best way to enjoy the experience. And, of course, don't forget to sign up to be a diehard, because diehard is where you get the diehard card, right, at all CHGO.com. And you get access to Ryan's articles all year long. You get a free shirt every year, right? You get to pick a shirt. And what else comes along with that? Well, the discounts to all the events, whether it's, a takeover, whatever it might be, 20% off. You get 20% off the merch all year, along with that free shirt of choice for the year. So make sure you sign up to do that.
You get the Discord as well.
Discord, all of it, yeah. So what did you think about since yesterday's podcast? What did you think of Aroldis Chapman, 1 year, $10.5 million to the Pirates? So now Hader's off the list. Chapman's off the list. I don't know if either one was ever even considered really by the Cubs. And Stevenson, right, is the other one off the list. So 3 big names. What did you think about Chapman for 1 year to the Pirates?
I just know that we're not thinking of it right now, but it will be annoying at some point before the Pirates trade him at the deadline if they're out of it. Like, for them, like from their perspective, it's a great move because, if they're out of it and he has a good year, there will be some desperate team out there that would probably, move not like a top tier prospect considering how old he is at this point, but they would move a mid-tier guy at the very least, I think, for him. And again, this is all based off if he has a good year or not. He wasn't even the closer for the Rangers last year. So, like, he's basically a high leverage late inning guy now at this point in his career. He's like him and Bednard now, the back end of the Pirates bullpen. It will be annoying. Even though the Cubs are better than the Pirates at this point, even without Cody Bellinger, I still think it will be annoying. And there will be 1 or 2 games where we're sitting on post game and we're like, fuck. So that's my immediate, like, my reaction to it is, it's a nice move, but I don't think the Cubs are ever into it, and that's fine with me.
Yeah, well, that's that's going to be, you mentioned it, Cody. That's going to be a tough back end of the back end of the bullpen in Pittsburgh with Bednar and Chapman. I don't know. It's I think like just everything Cody just said is it's setting them up with, obviously, like, Chapman had his best season since like 2019 last season with the Rangers, and they're setting them, and then the Royals, but he was huge for the Rangers down the stretch for sure. And setting themselves up for if they are better, if they compete in the division, like, then they have to at least on paper, like, pretty awesome back end bullpen pieces to help them lock down games. Or if they're out of it, then they do have they have the ability. I think David Bednar is only on a 1-year contract, if I'm not mistaken, too. So, like, they have 2 relievers, like, who may, if they're out of it by the trade deadline, could probably fetch them a good price as long as they pitch well. So, it's a good signing for the Pirates. As you said, I don't know whether the Cubs were really ever involved with Chapman or not. I don't believe so. But it's a good addition for a division rival, and as far as kind of shoring up their bullpen for sure.
Yeah, it's curious if it, I saw the Godfather Michael Collada saying another closer down the drain. I am curious if it's a better move for the Pirates than it would have been for the Cubs. Now, obviously, they can afford $10.5 million for 1 year to have, even if he's not the closer, even if ALLCITY was somehow still your closer with Chapman on the team and he was just like Merriweather and Chapman leading up to it, it certainly helped your bullpen, right? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh wow. Oh jeez.
You gonna live?
No.
Go ahead. Good thing we're remote today.
Yeah. You make a good point, Luke. Like it feels like a good move for the Pirates. I personally would have been pissed if they signed Aroldis Chapman, personally. Like at this point in his career, like the Cubs just aren't in a spot where it makes sense for them to sign a guy. Like I think the Pirates legitimately are signing this guy to potentially flip him. I don't
Which
see
doesn't make it doesn't make sense for this part where the Cubs are at, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If it was, I don't know, 5 years ago, perhaps. Of course, he was still under contract with the Yankees at that time. But like, I just don't feel like it made a lot of sense for the Cubs ever. Like they can. I'd rather them give Hector Neris a multi-year deal than go after old Aroldis Chapman at this point in his career. So again, I'm not bothered by it, but I do know, because I've watched Cubs baseball my entire life, that he will annoy all of us at least once or twice in the 13 games, and one or two of the 13 games that the Cubs will play against the Pirates. And we'll sit here in the chat, and the meatballs in the chat will be like, we could have had him. It's just like, bro, I just don't think it's not like the worst thing in the world that the Cubs can get him. Yes, I still think they need a middle reliever. Like they need a reliever. And so there's still some guys out there. Maybe they make a trade. I know some people asking in the chat about that tweet that was put out there by that random account that says, the Cubs and the Mariners were talking trade for Nick Madrigal, who we're going to talk about a lot today, but that might involve a reliever. But I'm not upset about not getting Aroldis Chapman. Like I think people who are upset about it still think he's the same guy that when he was with the Cubs in 2016. He just isn't. So
it's not 2016 anymore.
No.
I also, it goes back.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. Ryan's frozen.
And he looks like he's picking his nose.
Is that a pick or a scratch?
I think it comes with it.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
He's
back.
I was going to say that when it comes to the bullpen and the flexibility you have with options and stuff like that, Chapman is obviously a guy with no options. Like he's been in the league forever. So if you're adding him to that bullpen, then you have 5 or 6 guys that have no ability to be moved up and down, which with the limitations on bullpens now makes it really tough. Makes it really tough to have a bullpen that can last 162. So again, I don't know that should necessarily stop teams from signing good players, but that's definitely something you have to worry about. I'm not picking my nose, Barb.
Gary,
it froze on a scratch.
Yeah,
right there.
Right there.
Gary says that I'm referring to him as some people. I thought there was more than just Gary. I'm sorry. If it was just Gary who brought up the Madrigal rumors with the Mariners, I apologize. But anyway, yeah.
So anyways, I do think it's a better move for the Pirates. I think it's okay that they didn't get him. I do think that Bednar and Chapman for way less money than Hader for $95 million or whatever seems like a pretty good deal for Pittsburgh for sure. But like Cody was saying, I don't think the Cubs should be past the idea of, hey, we're getting this guy and we flip him. If they're talking about thinking in their heads about flipping guys at this point at the trade deadline, like, hey, we could still get some of this back and get this, then we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble if they're thinking about flipping a guy at this point. So
I still think
I wouldn't be against them adding him at the trade deadline if he has a good season. I wouldn't be against them if they were making a big playoff push to be like, hey, let's go get Chapman and give up a single A player, double A player. Done. Whatever it might take, but I don't need him right now.
And I'm not trying to completely say that the Pirates are going to be bad this year. I don't think that. If you watch yesterday's show, I think that they will be a competitive team because I think this division's getting better. But it's just you look at where their roster's at right now and what they've done this offseason. It's just kind of like it on paper, at least. It just looks like he signed with them with the idea of probably being moved at the trade deadline. And if I'm wrong, then I think we'll all be pretty surprised. So
agreed. Hey, it is day 2 of Cody Bellinger week here at CHGO Cubs. We are predicting that this is the week that Cody Bellinger signs with the Cubs. Most likely on the 24th tomorrow at 1:24, on 1:24, at 1:24. We expect number 24 to probably sign with the Cubs. That's when the announcement is likely coming. That's our prediction. Until he does sign.
That's your declaration.
Until he does sign, and we know Ryan doesn't want it, but he's declared he doesn't want him. We do want to say something nice about Cody Bellinger each day for Cody Bellinger week. Yesterday, my thing was I said I thought it was very admirable the way he approached 2 strike at bats in a contract year when he wasn't just swinging for the fences and empty numbers. And, he was trying to help the team, and I hope other players followed him. Second thing I would say is today for day 2, I don't know that defensively, other than maybe Dansby, that there's a more valuable guy that you could be adding back to your roster when you sign him on 1:24 at 1:24. The guy allows you in center field to have a Gold Glove player in center field and ease in your number 1 prospect. And when he's ready, then you can move him over to first base, where maybe Michael Busch will be just great and all that stuff, but then could go to DH for a couple years. I'm just saying, it doesn't matter where you play him defensively. He could play any of the outfield spots. He can play first base, and any of those 4 positions, he most likely gives you Gold Glove quality defense that makes you that much better. So I know everybody's worried about he wasn't a good player, and then he was, and all the stuff, like it was one good season after a couple bad ones. Yeah, but you're not looking at him as an all-around player. I know the money is coming because he's a left-handed bat, but don't forget, even if he has a couple seasons that are down from what he was last season, defensively what he gives you is something really special at 4 different positions. So that's my nice thing to say about Cody Bellinger on day 2 of Cody Bellinger week here on CHGO Sports.
My nice thing is that he has a great first name. That's what I got.
Nice. That's a nice thing to say. That's very, very kind of you. Humble.
I mean, you also said a lot of what I would have said too. So I
didn't mean to take it.
You're taking a lot away from what I could have said, but there is one thing for sure. He has a great first name.
Tomorrow, I think we let you guys go first. Maybe not Ryan, because Ryan doesn't want him, but is there something you can still say nice, Ryan, about Cody Bellinger?
Yeah, hold on. I'm looking for this quote from Jed Hoyer that I could just read word for word, but I can't find it. No, listen, you got to let me go first next time. You're taking the things I'm going to say.
Okay.
Here's something we haven't talked about is his leadership in the locker room.
Bingo. There you go.
His leadership in the locker room. It's something he's there for 1 year, and realistically it's more like 7-8 months. Right. But you listen to everyone, like there's a reason all those guys are saying like, we need to re-sign Belly. We want Cody back, stuff like that. I think besides just his play on the field and just, even just the personality off the field, it's like I think he took a real, leadership role, even if it's not the most vocal person in the locker room, somewhere where players look up to him. Like we talked to Pete Crow Armstrong at Cubs convention, and, one of the things he was talking about how that like his first day up in the big leagues, or one of his first days up in the big leagues last September, that he said, Cody Bellinger, I never saw him take BP because, he would always hit inside or whatever. But that the first day he was up, he spent 30 minutes outside talking to Pete Crow Armstrong just about whatever they were talking about, right? It's one of those things where he may not be the most outspoken person. He may not be the most vocal leader, but I do think he's someone that, given all the experience he's had in the big leagues, the ups and the downs, that he's someone that is willing to take guys under his wing or give advice or just have conversations with. And I think that's important in a clubhouse when we're talking about culture and building chemistry and stuff like that for a team that's, relatively young, or at least just as far as this rebuild goes, like they're still working their way up. So I think with Cody Bellinger, that's a big piece, is the kind of leadership qualities he brings to a team trying to make it.
Born to Run 99 has a great comment that maybe we should be saving for ideas for nice things to say tomorrow, but it's so good we got to point it out. Something not mentioned enough about Belly. He's an extremely smart base runner. Good one. Yeah. That is good. That's solid. Anybody else have something nice to say?
Didn't he steal like 20 bases last year?
Probably something like that. Yeah, it
was close.
I think one of those things is his ability to read the ball in the outfield and turn those singles into doubles, even if they're not pulling guys like far, like those ones that would pull the center fielder a little bit more towards right field, and he just turned the burners on, and more often than not was making it to second base and turning into a hustle double. So that's a big part of it too.
He reminds me of Chris Bryant on the bases a little bit.
He was an underrated,
the long legs, tall, but not. He doesn't look like he's flying, but he's fast and he's smart, and he doesn't seem to run into outs a lot. So that is a good one. Okay, we got Nick Madrigal coming up. I know a lot of you want to talk about the quote-unquote rumors out on the internet today, and we will play some of the interview. But first, I do want to hear from Cody about our friends at CIRCA Sportsbook.
CIRCA Sportsbook. Don't listen to my gambling advice anymore. I've lost 14 of my last 15 college basketball bets. It's
brutal.
Shout out to Quinnipiac for the one that I've won. But the roller coaster, it's always the fun part, right? And I do it on CIRCA Sportsbook. And there's always those three reasons that I give you guys why I love it. And the first reason is the tight money line splits. The games will strive to be a -110 split on the CIRCA Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use -115 or -120 splits. CIRCA Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. CIRCA Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. They actually encourage bettors to download and explore other sports betting apps available so they can compare the lines from each sports book. So, and then I really emphasize this the most. It's the chat bots. I really hate them, but CIRCA doesn't use them. Credit to them. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main CIRCA Sportsbook at CIRCA Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So download the CIRCA Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for CIRCA events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
And after you go ahead and check out CIRCA Sportsbook, you also need to check out Midtown Athletic Club. Midtown's got 4 Chicagoland locations: Palatine in the northwest suburbs, Bannockburn in the North Shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, and Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. Midtown Palatine actually launched a multi-million-dollar transformation of the club, which will be complete in early 2024. So coming up soon. And it's also, Midtown is offering no initiation fees this January at their Bannockburn, Palatine, and Willowbrook locations. They got something at the club for everyone: single people, families with kids, people looking to make lifestyle changes, holistic wellness. Midtown Chicago is the nicest fitness club I've ever been in. And if you go ahead on our CHGO Sports YouTube, Instagram, or maybe YouTube as well, and check out the content we shot at Midtown, you'll probably get that same feeling: the nicest fitness club you'll ever see. It's got cool club features, super luxe locker rooms with wet and dry saunas and premium amenities, amazing outdoor and indoor pools and hot tubs, a collection of boutique fitness studios with more than 100 classes per week included in the membership. And they're not just gym quality. The spaces are boutique quality. They got the best tennis courts and programming in the sport. Midtown has indoor and outdoor tennis, pickleball, and paddle tennis. It's USTA professional quality all the way. And I got to tell you, the CHGO Bears and the Chicago Sports Podcast will be filming live from Midtown Bannockburn on Thursday, the 25th. You got that right. This Thursday, the 25th. Guests of the show are complimentary at Midtown and Bannockburn that day. So go check out the space and catch our shows. Head over to midtown.com/CHGO to find out more and to tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you.
Maybe we could get Cody Bellinger to go over there after his introductory press conference with the Cubs at Wrigley Field on Thursday. Wednesday he makes the big signing on 124-24, and then, heads over. You never know.
Barb, she just She just knows everything about what I'm doing at the gym, man. Credit to her.
Bench press, she knows it all.
She just
The
knows
Bears.
it all.
Yeah, the Bears. Okay, Gary wants to talk about.
He also mentioned
the breaking news.
Yeah,
Joey
Gallo to the Nationals.
There it is. Breaking news.
Gary Ross broke the news.
Ding, 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 ding.
He's the one.
Adrian Griffin fired by the Milwaukee Bucks. How about
really?
That? Yeah.
Bulls legend.
Bulls legend fired by the Milwaukee Bucks. Things not going well enough. All right. So Nick Madrigal, do we want to – let's hold off on the rumor part. Because the rumor, I believe, is just it's one person on Twitter saying, hey,
from like a parody account or whatever.
Yeah, right. This would be a good place. I don't know if
this is where we're at in the off season.
I don't know if it even qualifies as a rumor. It just qualifies as a tweet. Or
no offense to whoever's running that account, but it's like you don't really have
no
any
offense whatsoever. We'll wait on Sarah.
Optimistic Cubs fan at Hot Stove Cubbies. You're welcome for the we just endorsed you there.
That's right.
Credit
here's the first thing I want to say, because I know that an interview with Nick Madrigal is going to draw mixed reviews just based on our live YouTube chat, because people associate him, one, with the Kimbrel trade, not naming names, and then I know that people sometimes either it's not a love-hate, but it's a like-dislike, right? There aren't too many people that are down the middle with Nick Madrigal getting playing time for the Cubs. I want you to know this. He's a super nice guy, right? Like, take the baseball out of it. So before you make any crazy comments today, note that he's one of the nicer guys we've ever talked to, period.
There'll be the crazy comments regardless, but
sure. I'm just letting you know, nice guy. That's the first positive. Now, the second thing that I believe he did very well, that we started our conversation with him at Cubs convention, is he learned how to play third base. And frankly, I had no idea he could do it. And not only did he do it, he did it at a very high level. So that's where we start part one of our conversation with Cubs infielder Nick Madrigal. Sarah's going to play it for us, and then we'll talk a little bit. We've got 3 different parts for this interview. This is part one with Nick Madrigal.
Here with Cubs infielder Nick Madrigal. And Nick, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. I think one of the more impressive things that happened on an individual basis last season was what you did defensively at third base. How much had you played prior to that? Like, it sounded like you hadn't played a lot and your offseason was full of it.
Yeah. So, going into the spring training, they kind of gave me a heads up that third base might be, one of the only spots that maybe I can get some time at. And before that, I hadn't played any third base at all. It was something new to me, so I immediately in the off season, had an idea that might be the case. So started watching tons of film and just guys around the league, and just tried to study as best I could. And once I got on the field and started taking reps, figuring it out for myself, I started getting more and more comfortable over there. But I mean, it was a work in progress, especially in the beginning. It felt really awkward at first. The footwork, the angles, everything was completely different. So it was completely new to me. But a lot of credit to the staff for helping me along with that.
You talk about the differences, obviously, like going from second base to third base. Just what was the biggest challenge or the biggest change that you had to make to be able to make that adjustment?
I think it's the ball off the bat, that the first couple hops and the angles, it's just completely different. Usually in the middle infield, you're able to, see the ball land, kind of read the hops and get, the angle. But at third base, it's a lot faster. You got to make a quick decision. The first step is huge. That's something we really focused on, was my pre-pitch before the ball's even hit, is being ready to fire out of the first step, so I'm able to get that hop or the short hop or things like that. But it's crazy. It comes down to a split second of, if I'm not down ready to field the ball, I might be late for a step. But it's just a lot of little things that fans don't see behind the scenes. But yeah, I would say that was one of the biggest things, getting my pre-pitch on time for when the ball's hit.
Yeah, because like one of those things is even just like, instead of watching the pitch, you're looking at home plate instead of where you could do that. You could watch the pitcher at second base. You can't do that.
Yeah, I'd said that in the past. One of the things in the middle infield, you're able to kind of watch the ball go into the zone and kind of read it a little bit better because it's all in front of you. But at third base, it's really, you watch the pitcher, he's about to throw, and then you're locked in on, kind of the front of the zone if he's out in front, or if it's a lefty, in the back of the zone, so you got to kind of switch up your sights from third base and almost anticipate, if luckily this year or last couple years, we're able to have the pitch comms in our hat. So we kind of know if there's an off speed, what kind of hitter's there, if they're going to be out front. So that helps a lot. But yeah, just different things to focus your sights on at third base.
Two-parter. Any anxiety over that as you're getting ready to start doing it? And then how many hours a day, if it is every day that you're working on it, like how much time do you have to put in on it to not just be a third baseman, but to play third base at the major league level at a high level?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, there's tons of anxiety, especially in the beginning, spring training at the beginning of the year. Just, it helped to get more and more innings under my belt. But I mean, especially in the beginning, I felt still uncomfortable over there. I remember our first couple games in spring training, they wanted to see, how I could do it on my own. So they kind of just threw me out there and just, let's see what you got, and then we'll start coaching you. But I didn't know where to stand. I was kind of almost making it up. We went into some different shifts, and I had no idea. So, I'm kind of looking at Dansby, looking at my position, just kind of trying to almost wing it, and as I started getting more and more innings, more balls hit to me, I started to settle in a little bit. I felt like the game started slowing down on the defensive side a bit. But, I mean, even throughout the year, I was out there saying prayers, just trying to stay calm, It's just, it was so much different. And luckily it went all right out there. But, yeah, it's still a work in progress. But I felt like towards the end of the year, I felt more comfortable out there.
That's pretty unbelievable. A Major League Baseball player telling you not only how difficult and how difficult it was and how much time he put in on it, but he's saying prayers out at third base, say, please don't let this go bad. Please don't. I mean, that's the human side of it. The guy putting everything he has in to try and be an everyday major leaguer. And, he saw a spot at third base. And the way I look at it is this: there's multiple guys in this organization that are either trying to break in or stay or both, right? They're all looking for positions. And I'm talking to you, Christopher Morel. I'm talking to you, maybe Owen Casey, based on, the pictures from Rich Biesterfeld. There's multiple guys out there that are looking for a position to play and trying to find ways to get on this roster and earn playing time. Nick Madrigal just gave you the blueprint on how to do it. Now, he may have to do it again this offseason, right?
Yeah. I mean, I always thought as frustrating as a player he can be, because this is why fans either love him or hate him, right? Is he doesn't hit for power. Hit 2 home runs last year, and he doesn't walk a ton. So he has to hit 300 if he's going to be an everyday player at the very least. And the thing is he's basically shown his best value coming off the bench. He's a great bat off the bench when you need a guy to just put the ball in play, because his contact rate is among the highest in the league. The fact that he can do that and now can play third base at a high level, I think on a good team, he really does bring a lot of value. Like if the Cubs trade him and they trade him to a team that has been winning, I wouldn't be surprised if, he ends up having a better career wherever that is. It's just the Cubs are in a spot right now where they're trying to figure out who this next core of players are going to be to help them win. And I just don't think he's played well enough to earn a starting position. I mean, that said, since we don't know what the Cubs feel with Morel at third base, it feels like Madrigal could start opening day at third base if they don't sign a Matt Chapman or sign someone else, right? Like, I think that depending on how they feel about Matt Shaw plays a big part in maybe Madrigal being that bridge. But to bring it back around, like he's done everything he can to stay in the majors, right? Because I remember going to last year, it was like make or break for him. Like he had injury problems. He had only been able to play at second base, and the base running, I feel like, is the one thing for sure that he could probably improve on. But the defense was one thing that you can't sit here and say that he's bad at anymore. Like he was really good defensively at third base last year. a position that he learned how to do in an off season. So it's just, to me, with him, it's always just been about like the role. Like, to me, he's not a starting player on a really good team. He's a really solid bench piece that can come off the bench and give you a quality at bat when you got guys on base and less than one out, like, or less than two outs. And like, I think there's value there. So it to me, that's like the most fair way you can, explain Nick Madrigal. So yeah, the fact of going through the process of learning how to play third base it's interesting, because some people just think, oh, you can just, they're major league players, they're athletes, you can just stick them over there and they'll figure it out. It's like, that's a hard position to play, especially for someone like him at his size.
I think it is impressive that he was able to do it and do it at a positive level, considering I don't know if anyone outside of the Cubs organization really thought it could work. It felt like a way to, hey, if you can do this, you'll be able to stick around in the majors. Otherwise, you don't know what's going to happen. So it was impressive to see him learn the position and have a positive impact at there overall. I mean, he's not making Nolan Arenado, Manny Machado type plays, going into the foul territory. He's not doing that. And, that Brendan posted the video the other day of him having to like the curl hop from third base, which to me, an out's an out. So like, whatever. But it does look a little funky, but an out's an out. Right. But I think, and just kind of to Cody's point is, he doesn't walk a lot, doesn't hit for power, which means the average has to be high. He has to hit for a high average. He makes a lot of contact, and that's great for a bat, for what they're asking him to do. He makes a lot of contact. I think it was like 92% contact rate last year, which is great. But he's got to hit for a better average. Maybe do some of that turning singles into doubles type thing to get the slug up a little bit more. But that's what he's got to do. He hasn't done it at a great level with the Cubs. There's a reason the last 2 years, like his WRC plus has been solidly below league average. And the injuries are real. The hamstring, right? He ended his season this last year again. So there's a reason going into this season, even after seeing him have success playing third base, that we said the best case scenario with how the roster is currently constructed is Christopher Morel learning how to play third base consistently well and can take that over full time. Like that's the reason we said that, because that's probably gives the Cubs their best chance at putting out their best lineup. Like Cody said, we don't know if Morel's done that, but from what we've heard, even just what's changed over the last couple months, it doesn't sound like he's proven that, and based on his offseason work. So he's got work to do if he ever wants to do that. So yeah, I can see Madrigal starting as the opening day third baseman without, assuming they don't make any additions. But on a good team, I think he's got a role. He's a guy that, again, he's had success playing third base, which is impressive. We know he can play second base. When Nico Horner is out, he's usually the guy that fills in there if it's not Morel. On this team, if this team is going to be a World Series contender anytime in the near future, like Nick Madrigal could still have a role. He's probably not starting in that role unless injuries happen. But I do think the ability to make contact at a high clip, the ability to, if he can increase the average, obviously, maybe take a couple more walks, whatever. But I think he's got a role on this team. I don't think he's going to be starting for a real contender, but he's someone that can play a role and have some sort of positive impact for the Cubs when they get to that level. And yeah, that's kind of the way I look at him. I don't see him as the starting third baseman for a World Series team, but I think he's got a role somewhere in there.
I could see him fighting with Jake Slaughter for playing time, but we will wait on that, Gary. Sorry. I think you guys nailed it. If he's going to make, last year it was an obvious huge step, right? He does the defensive thing. He goes to third base. He learns it to try and get the playing time. This year, if he's trying to get the roster spot in the playing time, I think it's more of a buffet of improvements that he has to make, right? I don't think there's something obvious. Even though we noticed that he is bigger when he showed up, like he's put on some size in like chest and stuff. Like he's a bigger dude than he was before. He's not any taller, but he's a bigger guy. I don't think he's going to go out and hit 15 home runs.
No,
could be wrong, but we'll see.
But I'm asking for 5. That's all I'm asking for. I'm
But
asking.
what could he could do exactly what you said, Cody. He could improve himself and turn himself into a good base runner, and that's one thing he could do. Ryan's pointing out the batting average. I'd like to see those doubles into the right field corner for him, and it's just kind of a combination of improving a lot of different things other than learning another position at this point, in my eyes. So, but I think the biggest one is what Ryan pointed out in our next segment here, and that is staying healthy. Like, he also has to be available, and that is one of the biggest things. So Ryan picks up the interview here asking exactly about that, his health.
And speaking of the end of the year, obviously the injury in September, how are you feeling right now? Are you kind of where you need to be as far as the off season goes?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. It's getting into the weight room, and I've lifted with the same guy for the last couple of years, Spencer Tatum in Scottsdale, and he's been incredible. We've compared different data and scores from strength training to jumps to everything from this year to last year, and I mean I'm way past where I was last year at the beginning of the year, and just we're able to do so much more. My hamstring's not sensitive anymore. We're able to explode and do things, and I feel like even towards the end of the offseason last year, I was still feeling it a bit. It was just one of those things. It's going to take a couple years for the hamstring to fully heal, and I feel like, knock on wood, we're past all of it. There's no sensitivity. There's, I'm able to kind of get out of bed, and there's no, tightness or anything like that. So I mean, we're in a really good spot right now.
That has to be a relief, right?
Huge relief, yeah. I thought, a couple years playing on it, and just it being tight and sensitive, I thought maybe it might be this way forever, but going through this offseason, I've learned that I'm able to get back to a normal hamstring and just feel normal again, and it's taken a lot of work and different things, from eating different foods to lifting different ways and a lot of information, but we're in a really good spot right now.
Yeah, and it being like something that you've dealt with before, obviously, like makes it. You said like, is this going to be like this forever? But then on the flip side of it, the timing of the injury in September, Cubs are making this run, trying to make the playoffs, and you get hurt and you go down, and ultimately your season's over. Just kind of what's going through your head in that moment, or just throughout that stretch of time where you want to be out there but you can't.
Yeah, it was tough. As that's why you play and train the offseason for exciting baseball like that in the hunt. Important games, every pitch counts, and it's tough, especially mentally. I tried to just stay positive, and I was hoping we got into playoffs, and maybe I was going to be back that first week or second week, and I was just hoping. But we were playing some really good ball when I went down. I felt good, in the box on defense, and just, I mean, it did suck just to not be in there for the team. And but I know this team. We got a good group here. We're looking forward to this year, and hopefully we get right back where we need to be. And yeah, hopefully I'll be in there.
I've been asking everybody this. You feel like division champs is something that you're locked in on?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see why not. I think that's everything we did last year, we can build off of that. We added a couple guys, and I think this group can do some special things. I know that's not the only goal set on, only goal in mind, but I mean, it's a good one to start with.
Speaking of adding a couple guys, obviously the Imanaga signing kind of kicked off this week earlier. Two-parter, just what was your reaction, obviously, when he did sign and seeing his first press conference yesterday, but also like that time in between the council hiring and then Imanaga? Are you someone that kind of gets antsy, just kind of waiting to see what the front office does?
I think it's more just excitement to see guys added to the roster, because I mean, if we're gonna go where we want to go, it's gonna take everyone, all hands on deck, and that's from the minor leagues to new signings to top to bottom, and we got some great talent added to the roster. I mean, Council is a great manager, so I think it's all coming together. I was watching the guys we acquired, and just more excited about and just ready to get to spring training. I think it's an exciting time to be a Cubs fan and in the Cubs locker room, and you can see we're building something special over here.
What's your relationship like with Craig Counsell now? I mean, he was on the other side before. He was the arch enemy. He was Darth Vader over there.
Yep. I've spoken to him a couple of times, and he seems like a great guy. I mean, I think everyone knows across the league how much knowledge he has, not only from the coaching side, but when he played. And I mean, he's been around the game forever. He's been on winning teams, and I think everyone knows he has the information, has the experience to take us where we need to go. So everyone's excited over here.
So we'll talk more with Nick Madrigal in a second. We just briefly touched there on his new manager, Craig Counsell. Hopefully he's healthy, because that's going to be a key for his season. No question about it. That's step one in him earning more playing time this year. Guys, I want to tell you about our partner, Ray Chevrolet, ringing in the new year with their best offers all month long. Make your way to Ray Chevrolet on Route 12 in Fox Lake to join in on the savings and start your Ray resolution. One of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest. You're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Right now, they're trying to make room for their inbound 2024 models, so their current inventory must go. Plus, you can find the perfect tailgate vehicle at Ray Chevy, because they have over 100 new Silverados available right now. Prices starting at $19,495. That's $19,495. Or take up to $10,000 off a new 2023 Silverado. And to top it all off, they're pricing over 125 vehicles under 20 grand. Where do you find a car for that now, or a truck? Seriously, guys, can pricing get more affordable than that? Don't forget, free oil change. All you have to do is mention CHGO when you schedule your oil change right now at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. Start your new year off right. Visit Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com to start your new Ray resolution. They've been serving the community since 1963. Find new roads. Wow. Have you guys noticed that it's getting easier for businesses now to switch to electric vehicles? That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being of all of us who share it, Cody.
Yeah, just realize it, Stuck. The electric grid is evolving to meet our cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence toward an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do, Cody Delmendo?
Well, Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, the chat, you're all so interested. I promise you. You got to go to comed.com/clean. There, where you can learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to comed.com/clean.
Did you say comed.com/clean?
I did, Stuck. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come. Almost fumbled the bag there, but
poor Ryan's face gets covered up on that ad. But it's worth it to save the planet. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah. I like the glasses removal, like
dramatic effect. You like that? Dramatic, it's a little extra emphasis to the line. I thought I'd bring a little character to it today. I felt like the new character had to move into the show. That's right, Alex. Luke DiCaprio. I've been called that many times. Sometimes people say Luke Pitt, but that's another.
Yeah, at least 4-time Emmy winner. Luke Stuckmeyer. That's right. He knows how to get the job done.
All right. So Nick Madrigal, I believe the last segment we keep talking with him is more about his time with Craig Counsell. And if you will, when we get to the tight shot of Madrigal, make sure you pay attention. My cup is sitting on a chair in the background. Here's Nick Madrigal with CHGO Sports.
I had talked to Justin, and he said that he was actually in Arizona working out when the news came that you guys were hiring Counsell. What were you doing? What was your reaction when you got that news?
Yeah, I mean, I was a similar thing. I think I was working out also, and someone had told me. I didn't even see the news break, and it was. I don't think to be honest, anyone saw it coming. But once the news came out, I think. I mean, there's a lot of excitement, to get someone like that, with his degree and just, and again, the knowledge he has in the game, it's exciting to bring him over here. And so I was excited when I heard it. I almost, didn't see it coming, but, after the news broke, just, excited to talk to him, get to know him better.
Full circle. You learned third base last offseason. So you had this clear goal on your page. Like, this is what I want to do this offseason. What do you want to do individually this offseason, or what have you been working on specifically that you think will translate to that same type of success in 24?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just getting my body ready to go and to withstand a full season. I think, like I said, I mean, I'm feeling the best I've felt. I feel like I'm trying to add strength for later in the season, and just that's one of my main focuses is to keep the strength on throughout the year. So towards the end of the year, my legs are, underneath me and I'm able to run and do different things. But I mean, I'm just focused on getting ready for spring training, trying to do everything I can for this team. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. I mean, there's still tons of, a lot of time before spring training, but I'm just focused on trying to get my body ready, and we'll see what happens.
Obviously at a thing like this, at Cubs convention, you get to see this side of the Cubs fan base. And everyone talks about how great Cubs fans are. You guys on the team do it a lot. You have the unique perspective as someone that also played on the other side of town. So I guess my question is just the city itself, Chicago. What does this city become for you? What does it mean to you, having spent your whole career on either side of town?
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. I will say it's both sides of it. I mean, it's one of the most special places to play. Wrigley Field, there's a different field. I mean, I remember when I first came over, someone told me, actually it's Cody Hoyer. He was with the White Sox when we were in the same trade, and talking to him, he said, I wasn't playing yet. He said Wrigley Field feels like just the happiest place in the world. When you feel the fans on top of you after a win, singing the song, and just it's such a happy place, and we feel it on the field, in the locker room, and it is a special place. The city of Chicago, you can feel how passionate the fans are for a winning team, and I'm excited to be here, and it's been awesome the last couple of years to stay in Chicago.
Hopefully it's a happy place a lot this season, and you're a big part of it. Thanks for your time, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
I mean, really thankful for his time. He was very engaging, right? Like that's all you want from an interview. When you're doing an interview with somebody, you just want the person to be engaged in the interview and feel like they're actually part of the conversation instead of just asking questions and getting a bunch of cliches. I think he was honest, he was engaging, and we blew it. I blew it. How did we not follow up with was the greatest moment of your life hitting a home run against the White Sox? That was the clincher question. Right,
you had the opportunity for the last question, and you just went.
I know.
Right.
I
Thank
can't
you for your
believe I
time.
blew it. I saw people in the chat talking about it. I'm like, how didn't we just mic drop it and be like, and wasn't it great to hit a home run against the White Sox? Drop the mic, walk off, and let him answer the question. That's how it should have ended.
We could have tweeted it out and got White Sox Twitter all bothered, and
Sean and Herb.
Herb would have continued to tell us about how awful he is, and how Sean says the same thing.
And then we would have told Herb that Nick was the fourth best shortstop or the third best shortstop in Chicago last season.
Yes. Probably still is. I don't know how good Paul DeYoung is at this point in his life.
Right.
Potentially.
Ryan takes some of the blame though, because he was in the room. A good teammate could have picked me up and said, "All right, let's finish it here."
What was I going to be like? Whoa, Stucky,
hold on a
smack
second.
you on the
How
mouth
about the homer against the Sox?
I would have remembered to ask if I would have been allowed to go in there, so can't blame me.
Sure. I'll take like 5% of the blame on that one.
Credit to you.
And then 5% goes to Sarah because cup distracted me.
Cup, exactly. The cup was distracting everybody the entire interview.
No, I wanted to touch on something that Nick said during the second part of this interview about the hamstring. Yeah. And like even talking about like going into this season, like a couple of years removed from the main hamstring injury, and talking about how, still thinking like, is this going to be how it is forever? Like he's getting out of bed and still can kind of feel it a little bit, like that kind of stuff like that. I think mentally for a professional baseball player, that's got to weigh on someone like that. Just wondering like, am I ever going to be able to play at my highest level with this in the back of my mind? I think that's also something that we don't really think about when it comes to the mental side. Like he has this big injury. It was a proximal hamstring tear. So it was a pretty big injury. And then he's sitting here 2 years later, still wondering like, is it ever going to be fully healed? Am I ever going to feel 100%? I think that's definitely something that, I don't know, that like I listen to that and I'm like, that's definitely something that has to weigh on a guy that's trying to, he's trying to keep his job in Major League Baseball. And that just having that in the back of his mind.
I wanted to point out something he said at the end. I guess he didn't say it, but he was talking about, he's like, there's still a lot of time, obviously, before, when I was asking him about what he can improve on. To me, in his mind, he's thinking the same thing that everybody in the chat is thinking. If my opportunity isn't here with the Cubs, it might end up being with another major league team. Because he, like Cody had said, he's got a skill set that is valuable to a certain team. Maybe it's the Cubs this season. Maybe it's another team. The rumor, or whatever you want to call it, the tweet where somebody was talking about Seattle, I don't know if there's any basis to that whatsoever, but I think they're not the only team that would be looking for a contact guy, not with a big contract, that can be their utility player to back up a lot of infield positions, to be their Master Boney, if it's not Master Boney or Madrigal, whoever it might be. I don't think it's unthinkable that we could get to spring training. He has a good spring, and they still think, you know what, we could package him in this and we might get something else back that might be just as useful. What do you think the odds are that Madrigal's on the roster at the end of the season?
At the end of 2024?
Yeah.
I'd say it's 50-50 right now, only because I want to go lower, but I just think Jed Hoyer loves this kid. So I think it's a 50% chance, but I don't have any basis behind it. I just feel like Jed Hoyer loves this kid, and he understands where the value that he brings, like we're kind of talking about. But if they trade him now for a reliever, I'm not going to expect this reliever to be game changing based off what we've seen from Nick Madrigal.
So then why move him? Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not buying into it. If it happens, great. I'll look up the guy's Fangraphs page and see what maybe the Cubs are seeing. I don't know. I don't see it happening. Just because if there is one thing that the Cubs have right now that I think we all feel good about, is they have a good depth on the bench, and he's part of it. And again, I think worst case scenario, he's your starting third baseman and is a bridge to Matt Shaw midseason. I think that's the worst case scenario. And depending on what else they do to the roster, I think I could probably get on board with it, but they just have to make the offense better. That includes bringing Cody Bellinger back and, doing whatever else there is. You know what I mean? So it is all based on whatever else they do. But if this roster looks like this and he's your starting third baseman, then I'm going to be talking myself into a lot of things that's not going to age well, probably.
Real quick, Godfather has mentioned this multiple times that apparently I have a spider on my wall, and now he tells me to look
spider on your wall.
Now he tells me to look over my right shoulder. I believe.
How could you possibly see a spider back there?
I believe he's talking about this.
The thing in the corner up in the top?
That's a doorknob, Godfather. That's a doorknob.
What's the thing in the top corner? What's the thing up in the ceiling in the corner?
That's a vent.
Oh, it's a vent. Okay.
It's a vent, and then a little thing over the vent.
There could be a spider in there. You don't know what kind of vision
I guess,
Godfather has.
Yeah, the Godfather must have X-ray vision if he's seen that.
He is Godfather.
Spider.
Yeah.
No, we got a vent. We got a vent and a doorknob. I'm trying to. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Got it right there.
You're going to be so amazed when you get up after this podcast, walk over there, and there's a tiny spider right above the doorknob. And you're going to be like, holy cow.
The Godfather was right.
X-ray vision.
Cody, I think like you said, maybe one of the worst case scenarios, or just, not the best scenario is right now, Christopher Morel figuring out how to lock down third base long-term, right? that would be huge for the Cubs considering the offensive potential, and just the team control over him that they have for the next 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. That would be huge for him. Patrick Wisdom, even rediscovering his form at third from 2021 would be pretty big, considering his ability to, his power numbers and what he could bring. And obviously, we've seen him be really good at third base in the past. But I mean, if it goes to Nick Madrigal and that's Matt Shaw comes in a little past Matt's midseason and he can take over that role, that's maybe not the most ideal scenario, but that's, see how that works out. I just think the better scenarios are one of Morel or Wisdom just rediscovering or discovering for the first time something at third base that can help them at least lock down that position for the year, or just play there consistently because of the offensive potential either of those two bring, specifically or particularly Christopher Morel. Can Nick Madrigal get you through part of a season as a starting third baseman? I think last year showed that he can, but I don't know that I don't know that I would bank on it happening again, especially if this team is looking to be more improved than it was in 2023. So yeah, I'm kind of with you that the scenario you probably don't you probably want the least out of those three scenarios is Madrigal getting everyday third base time for the entire season. I don't think that's I don't think that's ideal. And again, I'll go back to like he's got a role. I think he's got a role on a really good team. I just don't know that starting at third base is that role.
Yeah, and like I know, like some people have mentioned Michael Busch, but I think Michael Busch is more likely to be your DH or first baseman, platoon, one of those two spots. But he does have experience playing there. I'm curious to how the Cubs feel about him over there. I know Jed Hoyer kind of mentioned like basic, like he's got experience at first base, or he said something related to him playing first base at CubsCon, and maybe he's saying that publicly because of leverage reasons related to Cody Bellinger, but he is another guy that, again, he's listed to be able to play third base and has played it before. So I don't know. I guess that's something that we can monitor if we get the spring and he's taking reps at third, kind of like, everyone freaking out or getting excited about Owen Casey playing first base today. Like I don't know.
Rich got it. There's a picture.
Yeah.
It happened.
Which, by the way, is exciting in a way because it feels like the Cubs are trying to find a position for him because the outfield's pretty full, and he's basically came up as an outfielder. So he has a body for a first baseman, so I'm not surprised, and really, but
well, it's why I'm surprised that first of all, the minors are the place to learn that. That's why Shaw is trying to figure out third base, be good at it. Yeah, but it's why I'm surprised that Madrigal really had never played third base at all. Like at some point they weren't like, take a couple grounders over there. Just think they thought he was second base, shortstop maybe, but never really thought that he would ever need to go to third base. And it's impressive. So I'm waiting to see which player in the Cubs organization will make the same kind of commitment this offseason and frankly shock most of the fan base with some sort of improvement in some sort of way that we just did not see coming. Because for me, Madrigal was the absolute answer. It was Bellinger's bounce back year was shocking to me, but even more shocking was that Madrigal could not only play third base, he played it at a level that I thought was way better than I expected.
I think offensively, like we kind of talked about, he doesn't walk a lot. He doesn't have power. He's a singles hitter, whatever. The thing is we've seen him go through like 2-3 week stretches where he's like playing at a level that we're like, who is this? And what happened to Nick Madrigal?
Yeah.
Last year it was when he came back from Iowa after he really struggled like the first month and a half or two, whatever it was. Came back from Iowa and he went on an insane stretch, right? Yeah. And then the year before that, he spent a lot of the year hurt, but he had a really good August in 2022. But then he got hurt again before the end of that season. So a lot of it I do feel like has been injuries and just the lack of inconsistency. But last year, he went into the season, you didn't really know, like you didn't know if the Cubs were serious about him playing third base. And then we watched it play out and he was really played a lot of third base. And like with the bat, it's just more about like those 2 to 3 week stretches that he had. They can't to me, it just can't be a hot stretch. There has to be something like a middling ground. You can't go from doing that to like basically not really having any value as a hitter. Because that's basically what it felt like. Because when he's not going well, let's be real, he hits a ton of ground balls at second base because he goes opposite field a ton. But when he's going right, he's hitting line drives into the gaps. Even if they are singles, he's still hitting line drives for hits. And that's how when he was with the White Sox, he hit 300 before he like tore his hamstring or whatever. And so it's like if he could figure out a way to be more consistent with the bat, there's more to like there. But obviously, he's been given a lot of run. Obviously, he's had a lot of major league experience to this point in his career. He's run out of time, man. And so it's like he's not – I don't blame fans for not wanting to buy into him or anything like that. So I think for him, if he's going to stick with the Cubs and have a bigger role, he's just got to find a way to hit more consistently. I wish you could just teach a guy how to have a better plate approach to where you walk more, because he would be really effective if he could walk more on top of being able to hit, like have that contact bat. But the lack of walks and the fact that he hasn't hit 300 with the Cubs, he brings little to no value with the bat unless you just need him to put the ball in play with a guy on third base in less than 2 outs.
Yeah. No, I think that's a huge thing, Robert, is just getting, you mentioned that stretch in after he came back from Iowa, after he got optioned and came back up. And I think that was in June. And he hit like 340 for that month. And he wasn't playing every day in June. Like, I think it was like 17 games, something like that. Like, he hit 340, he had like high 800s OPS, like that's that stretch you were talking about. And he has that in him. It's just, can he do that? And it doesn't even have to be to that extent, but like, is he hitting 300 over consistently over a long period? Like it's an old school number, right? But for someone that is an old school type of player, he doesn't hit for a ton of power. He doesn't walk a lot. He puts the ball in play a lot. Like, having that higher average it feels important for him. So no, I'm with you. Like, again, it's just, can he be the offensive player the Cubs need him to be consistently? We haven't really seen it in 2 years. Injuries have affected his first 2 years for sure too. But like, that's something he's got to prove, because you have other guys coming through a system that could challenge him for that spot, or guys that are here right now that could challenge him for that spot. So he's definitely got something to prove this year for sure.
You can argue Mastrobuoni has a higher ceiling than Madrigal at this point. I think Mastrobuoni has a better plate approach. Sure, Madrigal, I think, had more, the results were there, but he also had a ton of at-bats where the results didn't come in terms of line drives that were caught and stuff like that. We talked about that a little bit on this podcast last year. And I'm not saying that Mastrobuoni should be your starting third baseman at all. But when you're talking about the role on the bench, like, they're basically the same player, except I think Mastrobuoni walks more. And again, the play approach is better, in my opinion. So, like, I don't think personally that you can have Madrigal and Mastrobuoni on your bench to open the year. One of them has to go to Iowa. I think Mastrobuoni is going to be that guy. But again, if they did trade Madrigal, it's like you can just insert Mastrobuoni into that bench role, because I think they're the same player, So, but also, for everyone who always complains about how, or not complains, but like, when me and Luke go on our tangents about giving Kyle Schwarber away for nothing or letting him walk for nothing, it's like the complete opposite with him and Nick Madrigal, right? Kyle Schwarber hits like 200, but hits 50 bombs and walks a ton, right? Madrigal doesn't hit any homers and he doesn't hit over 300. Like, that's like, if you're going to be a guy who doesn't have power and you don't walk, you have to hit, dude. You have to find ways to get on base. And that's the difference. Like, that's why Madrigal's value is just not up there right now. But
yeah, that's why I say he's got something major to prove this year, that he can do that consistently.
Yeah, we'll see how it unfolds. It may go all the way to spring training. It may go into the season. Maybe we'll get an answer to the questions even before they get to spring training. We want to thank Nick Madrigal for his time and being our guest on the CHGO Cubs podcast. Thank you for joining the live YouTube chat today. Appreciate all the comments out there. Shout out to everybody that was watching live. And just know that we have more live guests coming up. If the weather permits us to go in studio tomorrow, we have a special live guest coming into studio tomorrow. I believe Corey's going to come in Thursday when we have our next interview coming from Cubs Convention. And it's another guy who made an impact on the team. I wasn't sure what to expect from Merriweather, but not only did he turn out to be very effective for the Cubs, he was yet another really good interview for us here at CHGO Cubs. So we appreciate that. That's on the way. And then we may have another big guest or two coming up next week. That's what we call a tease.
Ooh.
Until then,
credit to you.
Thanks for watching the CHGO Cubs podcast. And don't forget, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.